Welcome to another episode of Mission Compliance, Unleashing Growth Potential for Defense Contractors. In today's episode, we continue down the road of understanding CMMC, its regulations, and controls. Up next is IA.L2-3.5.10. Store and transmit only cryptographically protected passwords. We'll break down what this control means, why it matters, and how it impacts your organization's cybersecurity posture. We'll also provide practical insights and strategies for achieving compliance and securing your systems effectively. So whether you're a defense contractor aiming to win more contracts or simply someone interested in bolstering your cybersecurity knowledge, you're in the right place. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? We're joined once again today by Mike Frieder, President of On-Call Compliance Solutions and a CMMC Professional Assessor. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman.
So, Mike, the last couple of control videos we've talked about passwords. This week, we're talking about cryptographically protected passwords. So let's jump right into that. Why is this control important?
So this control is one of those controls where you just kind of think to yourself, wait a minute, doesn't my system have this handled? And the thing is that in some cases that is true. If you're using a Microsoft Active Directory or Entra ID system, then the reality is that those passwords are, they're cryptic, they're encrypted, they're encrypted the correct way. It's no worries. But a lot of people don't think about the other systems that they are using to store, process, and transmit CUI. As an example, we could look at FTP. FTP is sent in clear text, so we can't just FTP CUI. We need to SFTP CUI. And there's a lot of other instances like that, and I see them all the time, where we catch it and we go, "Whoa, wait a minute, this isn't encrypted." So another example is, let's say that you've created a custom application or you're using an ERP with a rudimentary database, like basic SQL type stuff. A lot of times it turns out the username and password is not encrypted, making it very, very easy to steal through a packet sniffing attack. So yeah, this is on the surface, if you're just using Microsoft Office products and Microsoft products in general, chances are pretty good you don't have a whole lot to do. But it's for all those other systems out there, if they're not, a cloud solution that's FedRAMP, moderate or better, or if you've custom created some sort of solution or modified an existing off-the-shelf solution, or again, lots and lots of other scenarios where, a password could potentially be transmitted in clear text. That's what this control is for. So, I would probably say the great majority of people don't have a whole lot to worry about here, but then a lot of other people who have customized systems to hold CUI, this is a control they really need to look at, particularly if any kind of custom programming is involved. So it's quite an important control because a lot of people do use customized systems to get their work done and to store, process, and transmit CUI. And in those cases, this is a good double check. It's a good head check, sanity check, if you will, to make sure that, yes, in fact, all of our systems are tight, including the security of logging into those systems, and we are safe from simple attacks like, brute force attacks or even, packet sniffing attacks. So definitely a lot of value in this. Again, it's a security best practice. Microsoft tries to implement it for you wherever they can, but it's no small thing.
And it seems relatively clear, but for our audience that's maybe going through this compliance stuff for the first time, what is a cryptographically protected password?
Yeah. So amazingly, more programs than you would think. Great question, by the way. More programs than you would think do not actually encrypt the passwords required to get into, whether it's your save files or whether it's a database or just the program itself, wherever it is the CUI may be protected from. So, when those passwords are transmitted via clear text, they can be picked up by simple wire, or excuse me, packet sniffing. I was thinking about Wireshark, but simple packet sniffing programs, and then those packet sniffing programs can put the packets back together and just boom, there's your password. Believe me, it happens more than you think. Why does this happen more than you think? I'll dive in maybe a little step too far, but we'll get a little deep and technical here. Remember that when a computer transmits a packet of information, it doesn't just send it from point A to point B, it broadcasts that over a network. So all machines get it, but then the first part of the packet should be an address. And so only if the address is not equal to the address being sent, in those cases when it's not equal, then they drop the packet. But remember that if there's a packet sniffing application that says, no, no, I want to read all traffic, that's sent in here, that doesn't, there's nothing that would stop you from unpacking the packet and seeing what's inside. So that's the point of encrypting passwords is if there's encryption, they can open the packet all they want, but the payload is encrypted and only the person on the other end has the keys. That's kind of in a really basic nutshell how that works. So, yeah, great question because, and again, it seems so obvious on the surface until you realize, wait a minute, this is strange. Shouldn't this already be encrypted? Um, but amazingly, it is not encrypted. I'll see if I can get a list here. Hang on one second. List of programs that don't use encrypted passwords. Uh, yeah, let's see here. Um, yeah, so like FileZilla, as an example, is an FTP program. A lot of older email clients, like even Outlook, used to use clear text passwords. Certainly, routers and Internet of Thing devices, they are transmitting CUI technically, so we do need encrypted passwords on those, even though they're really security protection assets. They're still they're still transmitting CUI through them. And then a lot of web applications, even some remote support softwares like VNC. Uh, and let's see here, some old school development tools like GitHub repos, not a program many developers accidentally commit a .env or config files containing plain text credentials. GitHub's a very famous one. There's been a lot of really crazy intellectual property as far as coding and stuff like that that has been stolen from GitHub repositories because of plain text passwords. So there's a lot more examples of this than you would think.
Yeah, that's why asking questions like these are important because a lot of this stuff can be a little bit technical. And if you're venturing into this compliance minefield for the first time, some of this stuff that seems pretty obvious to people that are experienced in it, such as yourself, it might not be as clear.
That's right. That's right.
So what are the key assessment points an assessor should be looking for on this one?
Yeah, so on this one, there's pretty small. There's two key assessment points, and it kind of really just gets to the point of control, right? So the first one is determine if passwords are cryptographically protected in storage. So are they encrypted at rest? If you're already using a Microsoft system, as I think the majority of our audience either is or they'll figure out that they need to, Active Directory or Entra ID stores passwords required for system access. Active Directory utilizes DES for backwards compatibility, and then the CNG bcrypt AES 256-bit, which is FIPS 148-2 validated encryption for passwords inside of typical Active Directory type systems. Next up, determine if passwords are cryptographically protected in transit. So again, this is store and transmit only cryptographically protected passwords. The NT hash is protected by two layers of encryption in transit. Passwords are actually never sent in transit. So this is another kind of interesting thing is technically the way that that works is the password is hashed, and when it gets hashed, the password actually doesn't wind up being transmitted again, which is pretty cool. So again, a lot of detail there. It's very, very technical, but the reality is it's not terribly hard if you already know what the right answer is.
Absolutely. So, um, are there any difficulties in acting this one in an organization? And if so, what are they?
The great difficulties that I see are first off, your basic, Windows or Azure type networks. No, I don't think there's really any challenge there. What I see a lot of is I see a lot of larger enterprises that have modified their ERPs or have older ERPs that are still using plain text passwords. So then it's a huge challenge, right? You're dealing with a vendor. They're not going to want to customize your software. You're looking at this going, what do you mean it's a clear text password and the system contains a ton of CUI because it essentially is the way that you are processing orders through your system. And so where I see this a lot is larger enterprises that use older legacy type solutions or customized solutions where someone has gone through and created a system that's customized to their needs. But that system, again, was created by somebody who had a goal of creating a program that works, not really a security first mindset, as with most sort of more enterprise type softwares. So in that regard, there can actually be a lot of security holes in some of those custom developed applications. And that's one thing that I think just again it catches people off guard. They don't even think about it because they've been using the system for the last 10 years, 5 years, what have you. It's an older system, but it does the job, and so nobody wants to change it. And then we find out, wait a minute, this system's holding CUI, and it's just not been hardened at all. There's been really no security work done to it since it was created and put into place. So in that regard, this can actually be a very challenging control to meet for those organizations with customized software. Generally speaking, most commercial software is probably going to be okay though. Yeah, great question.
Absolutely. So if you've been with us for an unbelievable 110 episodes now, you know how this works. We ask three questions and then we get a little bit silly at the end to try to break up some of the minutia, some of the technicality that these compliance controls can sometimes bring. And this silly question is a bit on the nose. So we're talking about cryptographically protected passwords. And when I think about cryptography, I think about crypto. And crypto is the name of Superman's dog. So with that being said, who will be making his big screen debut in the new Superman movie on July 11th? With that being said, that I'm not getting paid to say that. I'm just excited. With that being said, crypto is the name of Superman's dog. Should crypto be trusted with storing and transmitting passwords?
That might be a question about my pay grade, I'll have to tell you. It's so interesting, Roman. I have a lot of friends who are really into crypto. And I understand the concepts around crypto. I understand how it technically works. Um, the blockchain has been really talked about as a thing that has a lot of utility to it, including storing passwords. So I think as a surface answer, was the question, do I trust it or
Yeah,
should we
well,
use it?
technically, I'm asking, do you trust the super dog to store them? But you're taking it into
Oh,
you're,
I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there.
yeah, I'm asking you if you're trusting Superman's dog to store them, but you're going in a different direction as you usually do. So that is the question: should it be trusted to store and transmit
This is a
passwords?
good one. So I'll tell you my thing about crypto, and I think it's probably an unpopular opinion. I understand crypto from a technological perspective. Um, I would even go so far as to say that I understand crypto from an investment perspective. The problem that I have with crypto is that it breaks Warren Buffett's rule of utility. In other words, Warren Buffett, and I'm a big investing guy. I love finance. I
Hmm.
love wealth development. It's just like I just think it's like the coolest thing, right? I mean, life is a game, and it's like how many chips can you accumulate before you die? It's nothing more than like Mario collecting coins as he goes around Mario World, um, and through Bowser's Castle.
Hmm.
My thing about crypto is I don't trust it. I don't trust it one bit. It is putting encrypted information out into a virtually public eye. I would think that the minute crypto's, encryption is broken, and it will happen, all of a sudden crypto is worth nothing. It's wild to me that no one has done that yet. I have to imagine that it is only a matter of time. But the most important thing to me is that crypto doesn't provide a product or service to anybody. It is just simply an imaginary fiat currency, basically. And so I guess in that realm, it's like the dollar, and the dollar is make believe, right? Any currency is make believe. It is a way to exchange goods. So, I just have this very mixed feeling about crypto because it's easy to see when it's going up and down, and generally speaking, it'll always go up. So, in that regard, I think crypto is a very interesting topic of conversation. It's not where I choose to put very much of my money. Um, and, I guess on that principle, if I don't put much of my money there, it's probably not where I would really trust a lot of passwords. Um, Again, I think that there is a way that you can use the blockchain to store passwords, but I just personally, it's like saying, hey, I'm going to hide the password on the back of my keyboard, right? It's in plain sight. It's only a matter of time until somebody figures out it's on the back of the keyboard.
Mhm.
I think in that sense, I would really struggle to say, yeah, I think, the blockchain or, if you've got some crypto, that's a good place to also kind of like tag your passwords to it. On the other hand, if we were talking about Superman's dog crypto, I would feel completely safe with him knowing my passwords because, um, dogs are very faithful to their owners, and they're well, they can't talk, so I would completely trust a dog with my passwords. And the big example is the Bush's Big Beans dog. He's never told the recipe to date, so I know the password is safe with him.
The
So if
question
it
is,
happens with anything like that guy, then I'm good with it.
the question is though, would you trust Brisket with your password?
Yeah, I don't know if I trust Brisket with much of anything right now. He's still pretty puppyish, but I suppose I haven't heard him talk yet. Um, I don't think he could really like Morse code bark a password. So I guess I would have to say I would trust him.
For those who might be new to the podcast on this episode, Brisket is Mike's dog. Uh, but I'm right there with you in terms of crypto and as in the currency. I've never understood cryptocurrency. I've never understood NFTs. I am a physical, like hard copy guy. I still buy books. I still buy CDs. I still buy Blu-ray movies. Like I like to have things in my hand. I don't pay everything with cash, but even with a debit card, it's in your hand. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can hand it to somebody, and that's just where I prefer to live. So I'm right there with you, and not trusting or really understanding the cryptocurrency, the NFT stuff, all that stuff.
I mean, it's interesting because yeah, I kind of get, caught between those worlds, right? Like, I come from the old school world where you want to provide a good or a service that people can understand. That's where the value is, all that kind of stuff. At the same time, you know, our company On Call creates value out of thin air, right? We literally create massive amounts of value, millions of dollars worth of value out of consulting every year. We help our clients win, contracts that are worth, in the hundreds of millions sometimes. What value can you place on that? What's intangible? So then what's the problem with crypto? I don't think there's a problem with crypto. I think that for those who are speculative investors, high risk investors, I think crypto is like the greatest thing you could ever ask for. I think that there's a lot of predictability in crypto, and you just cannot argue with the level of money involved with it. So I kind of feel like in some regard it's like a safe bet. But at some point in time, I just wonder if there isn't some imaginary self-destruct button on this. Either the encryption that gets hacked or the blockchain, just breaks, or worse, and this is really the dangerous situation is what if there's some built-in booby trap to Bitcoin that we don't know about? Still, nobody, allegedly nobody knows who created this thing, and there's still mysteries and secrets about it. So, again, like I understand very much that crypto is no different than the dollar. It literally is no different than the dollar. Um, but there's not land backing it. There isn't a government backing it. We don't know who's backing it. And I think in that regard, it's fascinating that somehow this thing has picked up enough momentum to create a lot of value out of thin air, just based on the idea that it exists. America is different. The dollar is different. There's a lot of land here. There's a lot of resources. Um, So yeah, I just really struggle on that. And again, there's probably, a comment below if if you have thoughts or stuff you can educate us about. But it's not that I don't get it. I completely get it. I think it's awesome. It's
I
decentralized.
don't get it. I don't. I'm not just like whatever.
Yeah, I mean the idea really is that instead of putting your money into fiat currency or something that's like Tesla. Tesla's the perfect example. Tesla at one point was valued at 1,600 times earnings. Okay, so to give you an idea, the typical small to mid-sized business gets valued at like 3 to 5 times profit. So if you got a $10 million a year business and makes $1 million a year, your business would be worth $3 to 5 million. Um, Tesla was, I don't know what their revenues were. Let's say their revenues were $1 billion. They were worth $1,600 billion or something like that. And still, the price to earnings does not make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? Well, because there's so much extra money in the world that you almost have to detach yourself from the value of what things are providing. And then but then how do you even come up with a price? Well, okay, then it just drops back into what are people willing to pay for it, right? The old fundamental, what are people willing to pay for it? And so the reality is that when it comes to crypto, that's really what it boils down to. What are people willing to pay for crypto?
Mhm.
Um, and again, from that perspective, I think it's limitless.
But I think you mentioned it in terms of for me, for you referred to it as high risk. And I'm not a high risk person. I'm like I'm no like I'm somebody that if I spend $5 and then find $20 on the ground, I'm like, man, I could have had $25. Like
Yeah,
you know I don't I'm not a gambler. I'm not a high risk person. It's just not in my personality. But also, we've already heard stories about like some of these lesser known cryptocurrency um, things crashing and people losing, whatever they had in it. So I'm just like, nope, gonna stay away from it. It's not for me.
it's
I am
so
not the
true.
target audience.
It's so true. And there's like these pump and dump schemes and I don't ever know what happened to Hawk Tuah girl, but she like went to go launch a coin, and I don't really understand it, but it like ate $400 million, and then she just disappeared. And I
I
haven't
think
heard that
I
she
think
went to
she
jail or
disappeared
anything.
because she knew it was gonna. I think she disappeared because she knew it was a scam. So
I'm very much clueless on that one. Trump had a meme coin that was doing the same thing, and again, it's very complicated. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not a low risk person. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so risk is part of the equation, right? When you build businesses, and so I'm not risk averse. I am a calculated risk taker, and perhaps I'd even go a step further and say, particularly in the last couple of years, I'd probably say that I've gotten more risky. But to me, crypto is just you put your money where your education is, right? So for me, as a great example, I have a lot of real estate. Okay. I understand real estate. I've been studying it for 25 years. I've been in it, I've been out of it, I've been back in it. I get it. Like I really do. And for me, there is a rule about investing. The rule is you got to go put your money in it to find out what it really does. That's it. You just got to lay it out on the table. You got to take a risk. So I have played with crypto before. I played with, Ethereum. I played with some of the others. And again, I didn't have entirely negative experiences, but I would tell you that, generally speaking, most of the time I played with things, they went down. Bitcoin was the one thing that did not go down, it went up. And I don't know what to tell you, Roman. It's everybody has their own risk tolerance and risk profile. To me, when I talk about, risk, it's very interesting because what on-call does is helps people manage their own risk. And when I look at Control 3.5.10, store and transmit only cryptographically protected passwords, it's all about reducing risk. It's about reducing the risk of something being out in the open for someone to snatch. And I think that ties back nicely to the old crypto conversation that we could probably spend hours on.
oh, for sure. But on a last note, if you lose all your money because you invested in something called meme coin, that's on you. Like, do you know what a meme is? A meme is a joke. They were telling you right up front, this is a joke. Anyway, before
Yeah,
we
I mean
get
it's
into
interesting. I've watched people invest money into proven franchises and lose. I've watched
Before.
other people invent things that just had no right to make money and watched them become millionaires. Um, it is a fact in life. Sometimes you just have to take risks.
Before we get down a whole other rabbit hole, that's a whole other episode on a question that began because I mentioned a cartoon dog. Um, that wraps up another great episode of Mission Compliance. We hope our discussion today has provided you with valuable insights, practical strategies, and inspiration to navigate the ever-evolving world of defense. We'd like to thank Mike for joining us, talking about the importance of storing and transmitting only cryptographically protected passwords, and then a little bit of a bonus tiny episode about cryptocurrency. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
But the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and connect with us via our social media channels. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and engage with fellow listeners using the hashtag Mission Compliance Podcast. If they haven't already, what should they do, Mike?
Well, they should like, subscribe, and they should definitely tell a friend to come hang out with us where we'll talk about crazy risk taking, crypto, and of course, getting compliant with DFARS, NIST, and CMMC.
That's right. You need to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so that you know when new episodes like this one are released. We'd also appreciate if you could take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you thought-provoking episodes and high-quality content. Join us next time as we delve further into the dynamic world of defense, security, and industry innovation. Until then, take care, stay informed, and make compliance your mission. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.